Greetings, my fellow freedom, low sovereign thinkers. Thank you for tuning in to LL3 Podcast. My name is Craig, transmitting from the beautiful realm of planet Earth, and today's date is Sunday, October 31st, 2021. Halloween, Hallows Eve, next day, All Saints Day. So, folks will be indulging on Samhain, whatever. Nothing new under the sun, correct? Pay our respects to our ancestors and all that good stuff. Some people will celebrate the rituals by any means necessary. Satanic witches and all that good stuff too. But you know what? One thing I always tell folks is like when you got a lot of things are happening right now, and a lot of other ordeals, issues, things suck, fetishes, of course. People still believe show your vaccine card when you work in the theaters or any building, because we're doing it for your own good, even though it hasn't been fully approved. Hey, ain't that astute? If I had the IQ of a turnip, I'll get more respect as well. But this is a funny thing I always get a big kick out of when you have a discussion with certain people. They want to refute it. Oh, I don't want to talk about it. You know why? Because they don't like the truth. Many of them hate liberty. They want to be told what to do, when to make love, when to wipe their own rear ends, etc. Why is that? They love shackles and chains. Enjoy being enslaved. Have a number on their foreheads or on their wrist, right? Go figure. Well, one thing I can tell you folks right now, this episode will be number 1412, entitled Tyrants Wear No Clothes and Liberty Shall Revive. This is based on from the American Free Press, issues 45 and 46 of 2021. Subscription only, so I encourage everyone to go there. If I'm going to be narrating like at least 5 topics on here from this newspaper. So now I am a subscriber, and I encourage everyone to go out there, support free press. Okay, not the mainstream garbage you see on TV and the garbage newspapers, with their pundits, the lobbyist groups telling them how to contemplate. Do you want that? Do you like to have that Ving sock fetish out there, my friends? Big Brother, 1984, the Orwellian environment. Question everything. Observe responsibly. And it's okay to put your 2 cents in on your personal views and have the merits to back it up. Because right now, what you're seeing, a good amount of them still want to belly up like a bunch of fish. My, oh my, oh my. Doesn't matter where you're at. U.S., Canada, Mexico, across the world. Look what's going on in Australia. Do you want to be like them? No, I don't. Hey, that's what happens when you have a firearm-free zone. Thank you, victim disarmament. I haven't studied history. I trust the government. And look what occurred. Oh my goodness. I wasn't expecting this. Well, and of course we know about the supply chains. The Federal Reserve is involved as well, to be very frank. Just go to Mises.org on that one. It's very good stuff to educate, agitate, organize. Don't be the unorganized. Remember, the old union motto. Unorganized workers are weak. Unionized workers are strong. And there's merit to that. And even see some of these labor organizations, they're bellying up. Not all, but a great amount. But of course, there's a great divide. Trying to play the Jim Crow game. Medical Jim Crow to be exact. And they assume that President Joe Biden is still doing a great job with his illiterate teleprompting reading skills, and the person, of course, who authors it. Well, there's one thing I gotta say, folks. It is gonna backfire on them in due time. Great things are happening. There's even the military, the judge favored the injunction for the military to not get forcibly vaccinated without a religious exemption, and that's good. One thing I tell people for a long time, you support your right of privacy. That's a fact. And the ones that try to ask you if you've been vaccinated or not, just say, are you anti-Roe v. Wade? If they wig out, that means you got them. Because one thing they hate, they love dish it out, but hate receiving. Treat them like they are punks and scums. And I say that out of love and in good faith. And I digress. Well, without further ado, I'm going to read some articles here from the American Free Press of the issues I've addressed aforementioned. And this one here was actually from an editorial perspective by Paul Angel. Day of reckoning is coming for the radical left. As it reads here, as you will read in the article by Donald Jeffries on page 4 on this issue of American Free Press, America is more divided possibly than at any time since the American Civil War. Or you mean the war against the United States? Because remember, the Confederate States of America was considered an independent nation or republic. Fully 52% of conservatives now believe secession may be the only way to live peaceably with their political counterparts. And 41% of Joe Biden support voters agree. Worse, 8% of those polled in both parties felt that the other side represented a clear and present danger to American democracy. Unfortunately, according to Larry Sabato, director of the University of Virginia Center for Politics, the divide between Trump and Biden voters is deep, wide, and dangerous. The scope is unprecedented, and it will not be easily fixed. How did we get here, and what can we do? Are we destined for decades for rancorous political division between Americans? It appears so. I'll continue on here. Jeffries believes the divide is caused by the insanity of the policies of the new left, which wants to completely transform America into something it was never supposed to be, a socialist state in which equality of outcome is the ultimate goal and the government is our big brother. And we can all say this, my friends, is under the technocratic umbrella. Big banks, the banksters love this. They've done it on past revolutions. Just study what happened in the Weimar Republic and the Soviet Union. The past is today's greatest teacher, to be exact. Out the window of success based on hard work and merit. Work your butt off to get good grades and excel in college. You are now punished with racial preferences where people are given job opportunities based on ethnicity, not intelligence or professional proficiency. That's right. Hand me respect because what I look like. The Palmolive program, I call it, folks. And I'll continue on here. The good news is that people are waking up, though many on the left cannot get past their media-fueled hatred of conservatives. Thank you for being mind-controlled and saying I love Jim Jones. They should wear the buttons when they say that. Doesn't matter what side of the paradigm, right? It is my state of Virginia. We are in the midst of multiple major elections, the most prominent of which the race for governor. While the GOP candidates talk about how they are going to create jobs for all racial groups, prevent critical race theory from infecting our schools, and lowering taxes for Virginians, the campaign commercials for the Democratic candidates universally show film footage from the January 6th Capitol riot, or even alleging that 5 policemen died that day. Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who talks like this from the Bronx, has said on previous occasions that 10 policemen died that day. It's a lie. But are Virginians and Americans so stupid as to believe these blatant lies? We'll find out in a few weeks. But the trend is that we are not as dumb as they hope. This is shown quite clearly by the peaceful resistance mounting across the nation to the radical policies of the new woke version of Joe Biden, perhaps the emptiest shell of a man we have never, ever seen occupy the Oval Office. Obviously, Biden does not have the mental acuity to be formulating the transformative policies he would never have supported just a few years ago, and people know it. So, where is the resistance to this regime happening? Everywhere. Young people once considering dependable voters by the Democrats are chanting in unison by hundreds of thousands at sporting events and packed stadiums. F Joe Biden. While we do not support the use of such coarse language in public discourse, we do approve of the sentiment. Yes, welcome to blowback, right? At a NASCAR event at Talladega Super Speedway, which is in Alabama. Recently, one embarrassed commentator interviewing race winner Brandon Brown heard that vulgar chant of the attendees in the background and pretended that the crowd was saying, "Let's go, Brandon." However, everywhere across America, signs are popping up with "Let's go, Brandon," and blazoned on them a less obscene message being clearly understood by those in the know. A Stonebridge High School and other schools in Virginia, students walked out of class en masse in support of a female classmate who was raped in a unisex bathroom by a boy she was familiar with who was wearing a skirt, whether or not he is transgender or identifies as a woman, or was simply wearing women's clothes to get into the girls' bathroom is unknown. But since he was obviously interested in girls, one must assume he was manipulating the school's bathroom policy to prey on teenage co-eds. Students realize this and, even at their age, understand that such policies are pure lunacy. Even the students in those schools are figuring it out, my friends. I'm just laughing so hard. This is how hysterical these her-conformed, paid saps that are professional chumps are just stepping on their own bear traps, okay? In school board meetings across the nation, moms and dads are resisting with all their might the institution of racist teaching in the public school system. The administration was so worried there might be peaceful parents' revolution. Biden psyched his attorney general on them, enlisting the aid of the Federal Bureau of Investigation. In short, the Biden administration has declared war on American parents, and parents are not taking it lying down. You know what I gotta say about that, Biden and your scumbag attorney Garland? Stick it. Go back in your hole, because you're contaminating space. Plain and simple. Huey and Dewey, and you got your hyena sidekick, Kamala Harris. Bald lives matter. I'm just enjoying this stuff. If people get offended on my show, who the hell cares? All right, and I'm not even a Trump worshiper. Plain and simple. All right, so I'm going to continue on here. So the whole thing is great because one thing's going on for sure, my friends, is that it's backfiring on them. And Jefferson once said, a little rebellion now and then is good. And we can say one thing about Virginia. You have your Bill of Rights, Article 1 under the Commonwealth Constitution, and the Virginia Resolutions of 1798. So all those stupid laws, those little pathetic programs are null and void. Okay? They are invalid contracts. Use that resolution and give them the big middle finger, including Biden and Garland. And every state should do the same thing, every municipality. It's just all the facts. We got all this information, you have to implement it. Remember the whole Patriot Act ordeal? Over 400 municipalities, cities, counties, including 8 states, said no to it. There you go. You can use that also. It's all in there. The template, you got it at your fingertips. So I am very pleased about this. An excited time. It's very exciting, and I'm enjoying every minute of it. And I remember, if people heard my show for a very long time, I told folks it's going to be 10th Amendment nullification, anti-commandeering doctrine exercises when Biden gets in. Now look what's going on here. Don't let the garbage media tell you how to live, how to think, how to wipe your rear end. Don't get bought and paid for by these pathetic lobbyists, pundits, spudheads, bureaucrats, etc. Let's defend Virginia. They tried to do your gun control laws, and that's still illegal. So you know what? I say do private sales. Let the firearm clerks sell you many firearms as possible, because you have that right under your own state constitution. And what Richmond's doing is void with no force. So, like I said before, time to unite rather than divide. Don't let the mind control propaganda get to you. To all you hired fools out there, they're trying to make money. You're all being exposed. You're wearing no clothes as well. All right, this next article here came from Donald Jeffries. Yeah, there's Donald Jeffries' letter right here. There's one page, so I had to add that to it. America is more divided now than ever. Large swaths of both conservative and liberals support secession, by Donald Jeffries. In 1860, 7 southern states vowed to secede from the Union. After Abraham Lincoln responded with unprecedented, heavy-handed tactics, 6 more states joined them. The division in America then, however, was primarily over the question of central government authority and to a lesser degree. I recommend folks out there start reading the book The Real Lincoln and Lincoln Unmasked. And there's got bibliographies in there. When you read that, go further. Trust me, it is a fact. And another thing you know as well, his first inaugural address, he says it's up to the states to end slavery. So don't let the Marxist hacks, one-dimensional victors, I know my history. Well, you know what? A lot of them really don't. He's got caught in the Hollywood propaganda matrix. So I will continue on here. Civil War era America has had numerous unifying principles. American society was still built on a belief in God or the Creator, with the vast majority of the population being Christians. What was considered moral for Northerners would have been looked at identically by Southerners. They were few, if any, cultural divides. There was also no notion that one part of the country desired to punish the other part for their beliefs. After 4 horrific and bloody years and close to 1 million Americans killed, the North desired to punish the South, which resulted in the horrors of Reconstruction. American society in 2021 is fractured beyond repair. The reason why the First Amendment is so unpopular with woke authoritarians is that it protects God-given rights, and they get offended by it. Natural rights, God-given rights. They believe, we're going to hand you your rights. The virtual signaling left doesn't believe in God, so this concept is irrelevant to them. With the successful implementation of undefilable hate speech into popular discourse and increasingly under law, free speech has essentially been eradicated. For civil libertarians and those still concerned with the rights of all, that's a serious breach that cannot be compromised. A new poll by the University of Virginia Center for Politics found that 52% of respondents who voted for Donald Trump agree that the situation is such that I would favor blue or red states seceding from the Union to form their own separate country. And still impressive, 41% of Joe Biden voters expressed secessionist sentiments. Some Republican officials are beginning to openly support such an idea. One, you can talk about Texas. I did a thing called Texas. Interesting stuff there, folks. And if you read their Constitution, Article 1, Section 1, they're considered a sovereign state. So we'll continue on here. Let me look. After the Supreme Court supposedly packed with a Trump majority rejected a lawsuit by the Texas Attorney General disputing the 2020 presidential elections results, former GOP Chairman Alan West commented, perhaps law-abiding states should band together and form a union of states that will abide by the Constitution. The seriousness of division was exemplified by the fact that 8% of those polled in both parties felt that the other side represented a clear and present danger to American democracy. The divide between Bush and Biden voters is deep, wide, and dangerous, declared Larry Sabato, the director of UVA Center for Politics. The scope is unprecedented. And will not be easily fixed. The divide is being driven by literal insanity of much of the woke left agenda. Most Americans will find it difficult to ever accept that there are more than 2 genders, let alone 50% of males can menstruate and even give birth. Yet this is what they believe. Margaret Atwood, an iconic figure in identity politics for her fanciful novel and The Handmaid's Tale, is the latest feminist to run afoul of transgenderism. Atwood excuse me, I get the hiccups here. Atwood made a mistake of sharing an article on Twitter that asked, why can't we say woman anymore? The column, written by Rose DiMano in the Toronto Star, noted the battleground of language has turned into a battleground of agendas. I am a woman, I am roaring. The angry backlash Atwood received included a tweet that declared, I hear JKR is looking for friends. You can't sit at her table, a reference to the canceled Harry Potter author J.K. Rowling. One of those blasting Atwood was a producer of the National Public Radio's All Things Considered. This mad, new, woke left, led by the likes of Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Democrat from New York, and Representative Rashida Tlaib, the Democrat from Michigan, is also starting to garner opposition from more traditional, albeit still largely woke Democrats. The two members of the squad. Woo! Thoroughly authoritarian liberals like trust fund baby turned journalist Donnie Deutsch who once declared that all those voting for Trump must be racist, is concerned that his party has swung too far to the extreme left. Deutsch observed that the AOCs of the world represent the socialist kind of pulling away to the left is a disaster. And we are staring at democracy in peril. He went on to tell MSNBC's Joe Scarborough, if we don't get this straight in 2024, it ain't ever going to be right. You should be sounding the alarm bells of what's going on now. It is becoming very hard for rational Americans to tolerate this nonsense, especially when questioning it results in one being fired and canceled on social media and the internet. You can't have a cohesive country when these half the populace don't believe in free speech or other basic rights. What a decent parent could possibly tolerate? Alone support, ideas, concepts like transgender story hour. The political prisoners in Washington, D.C., smeared as insurrectionists by half of the citizenry, clearly advertise the problem. As Lincoln himself noted, a house divided is against itself cannot stand. Even moderate Democrats are being turned off by the new party, one now dedicated to wide open borders, anti-white policies, and woke idiocy. Club of Rome agents, plain and simple, including some of the members of the squad. And though it has taken an excruciatingly long time, left-wing media outlets have no choice but to admit that the Emperor Biden has no clothes. After the president fumbled his way through another puffball town hall with longtime Democrat operative Anderson Cooper, with some people, he says, yeah, well, I am gay because he needs ratings. And his show is garbage, and I don't care if he was bisexual, it doesn't matter, okay? It doesn't matter what his sexual preference is. I'm not impressed by this individual. At one point, unable to formulate a response to a fairly simple question, even CNN had to admit that America's chief executive is not all there. Mentally, it's about time they stopped covering for his every gaffe, almost noting that his administration does not, almost nothing that his administration does is for the betterment of the American middle class. While we can hope that free community college, free child care, and free just about everything else is possibility, who wouldn't want all this stuff free? I don't. The financial reality of the situation is that nothing is free. Somebody is going to have to pay for it. And it's not going to be the rich. Claims that the massive $1.8 trillion infrastructure bill won't cost you a dime. It's simply fantasy, as is much of what we hear coming from administration's mouthpieces these days. A wet dream. Almost nothing that this administration does is for the betterment of the American middle class. while we can hope that free community college, free child care, free just about everything is possible, who wouldn't want this free stuff? The financial reality of the situation that nothing's for free. Somebody is going to pay for it, and it's not going to be the rich. And I'm like, good grief, looks like it's been repeated again. That may be my fault. Well, here's the thing, folks. Claim that the massive $1.8 trillion infrastructure bill won't cost you a dime. I'm going to skip that. I think I pasted that twice. Election day is coming, and a reckoning is at hand. Maybe we are more united than the pollsters say. One can only hope that this is the case. And remember, this is another battle. It's going to be steps. It's not going to be one big overhaul. And whoever gets in, folks, especially in Virginia, they got to put their feet to the fire, regardless of their party. As far as I'm concerned, what Northam did, make these threats with have the National Guard about on the Virginia's firearm rights, about getting the National Guard involved. He should have been charged for treason right there. I talked about that too a couple of years ago. So those are the facts. One thing I love, people are seeing it, and I chat with people. I just chat with a lot of folks out there, and I interact, and they're like saying too, what the hell's wrong with this man? This is why, my friends, I was never a big Biden supporter for over 30 plus years. I judge them by their actions. What's so hard about that, right? And what's really disturbing when people voted for him because they hate President Trump, that's an unmerited reason, a piss poor excuse. So, what are you going to do? Keep plugging away, fight, think, and act locally. One of the biggest mistakes people got to realize, presidential supremacy is unhealthy. This is why we have a constitutional republic, separation of powers, 3 branches of government, and all that. You want to plant the seed, now no tree. One of those areas we have to focus on. But all these years, they condition us to feel the hype who's going to be running for president. Only thing the president is, elected ambassador, Article 2. All you got to read is Article 2 in its entirety, you get it, and it's self-explanatory what the president's obligations are. I say this, if enough people want to secede, I say time to decentralize, nullification, any commandeering doctrine. That's the way to do it, folks. Then we could actually decentralize. No more federal funding on the state and local, to the states and the municipalities. Those are called bribes, extortion, blackmail. Yeah, think about that. Well, it's going to be exciting, so we'll just see what happens at the Old Dominion. This one here is article number 3 I'm going to be reading. It's about the ACLU. ACLU falls far from pro-liberty roots. ACLU opposes free speech in schools, supports vaccine mandates by S.T. Patrick. Yes, they are pro-enslavement. Another communist lunacy ultra, right? As it reads here, the Virginia chapter of the American Civil Liberties Union has filed an innocuous brief in a circuit court in opposition to an emergency petition filed by Byron Tanner Cross, a teacher who was placed on leave by the school district after he spoke out against proposed transgender student protections. The ACLU has long been controversial to both sides of the political aisle because they have defended controversial organizations and individuals across the political spectrum. Today, however, there's a reason to ask whether the ACLU has purposely taken a final hard turn to the left and has become more overly political in its activities. The ACLU is a nonprofit organization founded in 1920 to defend and preserve the individual rights and liberties guaranteed to every person in this country by the Constitution and laws of the United States, according to their own website. The ACLU is a large organization focused on using its 1.2 million members and a $300 million budget on lobbying and litigation efforts. Historically, it has fought to expand civil liberties, enforce separation of church and state, protect the rights of anti-war protesters during the Vietnam War, and champion the protection of the accused in the Miranda case. It has done good work while protecting individuals and small businesses against the behemoth of federal power and corporate misconduct. It is legitimate to wonder where that same spirit is today. In New York Times with the United States, the ACLU fought for the right of newspapers to publish the Pentagon Papers without censorship or punishment from the U.S. government, as Julian Assange awaits extradition to the U.S. while deteriorating in a British prison. Where today is the ACLU, the organization who should be the loudest, most organized and financed voice supporting those such as Assange, Edward Snowden, Chelsea Manning, reality winner Stephen Don Zinger, and others like them? Where? What happened? I haven't heard anything. Think about that. It was convenient, right? In 2021, the ACLU is a pathetic shadow of what it was. Watered down, stagnant, deteriorate like everything else. The ACLU is led by President Deborah N. Archer and Executive Director Anthony Romero. Archer is a civil rights attorney and is a law professor at New York University. She also directs the Center on Race, Inequality, and the Law and the Civil Rights Clinic at NYU School of Law. Upon her election as ACLU president in January 2021, Archer became the first African-American to head the ACLU in its history. Romero has been in his position since 2001 and was the first Latino openly gay man lead to the ACLU. Well, so what? How they're doing it? Protecting all the laws of rights to everyone. Like I said, glamming. They're just glamorizing, thinking it as an entitlement, in my honest opinion. It is not the first time in the past year that the ACLU has come under fire for going as far as to say that governmental activities that could lead to be read as authoritarian or any individual civil liberties should be supported. Last month, the organization baffled some of its most strident supporters when it claimed that mandatory COVID-19 vaccinations advanced civil liberties rather than squelch them. Yes, pro-involuntary servitude, anti-Ninth Amendment, and they contradict the case of Roe v. Wade. The Michael Moore syndrome, Rosie O'Donnell too, hypocrites and proud. On September 2nd, the ACLU tweeted, far from compromising them, vaccine mandates actually further civil liberties. They are the most vulnerable people with disabilities and fragile immune systems, children too young to be vaccinated, and communities of color hit hard by the disease. Having the state force citizens to inject their bodies with the medicine they don't want is a victory for civil liberties, actually says the ACLU. Tweeted. Journalist Glenn Greenwald in response. How far afloat has the ACLU drifted on the issue of mandatory vaccinations? Just one of many issues on which it has done a virtual 180-degree turn. In 2002, the ACLU opposed mandatory smallpox vaccinations for first responders. Also argues stringently that employees who refuse smallpox vaccinations should be protected from retaliation by their employers. Smallpox vaccine risk and getting vaccinated is not a choice to be made lightly, but in America, it should certainly be a choice. The ACLU's Technology and Liberty Director argued. The ACLU even released a pandemic preparedness pamphlet that warned against a public health reaction model that assumes that we must trade liberty for security, resulting in pandemic prevention that takes aggressive, coercive actions against those who are sick. Jeb Bush will probably love that. He's the one who signed the Florida's Health Powers Act of 2002. They would get along great. Yeah, we think alike and smell the same. Tyrannically crappy, right? Policy 8040 at a May 25th meeting of the Leesburg, Virginia School Board told those in attendance that he would not comply with Policy 8040, which provides extra protection for transgender and gender-expansive students. because to do so would violate the tenets of his Christian faith. So we should have special treatment for one group, but not all. That's what it comes down to, folks. Jim Crow of sexuality, or, you know what I'm saying, identity, gender identity, right? On May 27th, Cross was placed on leave for his position as a physical education teacher at Leesburg Elementary School. He sued for reinstatement. He was rewarded an emergency injunction, which district challenged and lost in state court. He and two others are being defended in court by the Alliance Defending Freedom, an organization labeled a hate group by the Southern Poverty Law Center. Remember one thing about the SPLC. Bigotry's their business. That's how they make money. I knew this for a very long time, friends. I never bought it. What's his name? Morris D's, that quack, who was a chauvinist pig and sexually harassing women, supposedly. Had to resign? Think about that, right? The Cross case brings to court an honest debate within education. At what point do teachers and individuals have the constitutional rights to violate or reject policy mandates from their employers? In this case, the ACLU is siding with the school district against the employees. More often than not, these days, it sides with the government and corporations against citizens and employers. The ACLU has not only become overtly leftist and concerned only about the perceived liberties of the left, but it has also become a cultural enforcement arm of the elite, a tool of government power, and a bastion of Orwellian doublespeak. What can we say about them? They're nothing more than pieces of trash. So you got a president, and you got a supervisor, are nothing more than tyrannical crap bags. Yeah, you love that power. I'm just wondering how they feel being a bunch of political bawds, corporate bawds, fascistic bawds, yeah, prostitutes, globalist, one world order mouthpieces. Yeah, we need to start sending these imbeciles shackles and chains and let them walk around everywhere they go. Because that's what they're truly representing. They're nothing more than pieces of filth and other things I don't have to say with vulgarity. Well, the Rutherford Institute, I would endorse, folks. Rutherford.org. John Whitehead, I'd rather have him involved. I'd rather support that man. I don't put my money with the ACLU. I know one thing, a lot of those members are probably wigging out. And I'm expecting this in due time. A lot of them will cut their cards, wipe their rears, and send it back to them. Okay, well, I'm going to do one over here. Number 4, the Anti-Defamation League. ADO wants free speech stifled. That's by John Friend. Of course, the Gino Group. That's their main headquarters at the UN building in New York City, right? GAD, the increasingly popular alternative social media network founded by former Silicon Valley insider Andrew Torba in 2016, has groups like the Anti-Defamation League in an uproar. Because they're too flamboyant, right? The highly demonized website, which serves as an alternative to Twitter and Facebook and includes features such as Gab TV and Gab News, has long been controversial of America's power elite and mainstream mass media who wish to control the political dialogue and narrative in America by censoring alternative perspectives and dismissing critics, dissenters, and independent thinkers as conspiracy theorists or anti-Semites. So watered down. But if Zionist goes killing innocent people that are Palestinian descent, and many of them are Jews, Christians, and so forth, Middle Eastern, that's okay. That's not being anti-Semitic, right? Oh yeah, I'm a hypocrite as well. You know, look at all these posers. Among other odious slanders and mischaracterizations. I should have finished that, so sorry about that, folks. In early January, just a week following the chaotic protests at the U.S. Capitol falsely described as an insurrection. The ADL penned an open letter to the U.S. Department of Justice demanding a criminal investigation into Gab, who it argued may well bear a measure of criminal responsibility for the attack by allowing users a forum to communicate, network, and spread ideas. The letter published by the ADL insists that the events at the U.S. Capitol were deliberate and coordinated. Yeah, it was an inside job, clowns. Although federal investigators have concluded otherwise, it implies Gab played a leading role in facilitating and coordinating the actions of the protesters. Just straight out of the Tyrants playbook. Rather, 20th century, Hitler, Karl Marx, Lenin, Benito Mussolini, and so forth. Think about that, okay? To the extent Gab intentionally served as a forum for people to plan, coordinate, to engage in, or otherwise facilitate the criminal activity that took place on January 6th, a Department of Justice investigation is warranted. The ADL argued the platform as well may... The platform as well as any other tech platform that may have undertaken or facilitated such actions must be held accountable. To the extent Gab executives were aware and intended for the platform to be used to carry out violations of the federal criminal law, with such individuals must also be held accountable. The subversive anti-American hate group went on to specifically call upon the U.S. Justice Department and FBI to launch a criminal investigation into Gab and Torba to determine whether the platform intentionally aided, conspired with, or directed individuals to carry out the January 6th attack. The ADL continues to demonize and attack Gab and Torba, who serves as the CEO of the company and is also one of the most popular users of the platform. A report published by the anti-free speech organization in mid-October entitled, "For Twitter Users, Gab's Toxic Content is Just a Click Away," bemoans the spread of links to content on Gab posted to Twitter. Looks like they got their cues from Jack Thompson. He's the one who was pushing to stop the accused Two Life Crew 570. This happened like in 89 and 90. Yeah, very interesting. You should look it up. Jack Thompson, Two Life Crew. The report analyzes tweets posted to Twitter between June 7th and August 22nd that features links to content on Gab. Laminating such as poisonous and anti-Semitic content could appear on Twitter. The ADL's report goes on to highlight and demonize some of the popular content appearing on Gab that is later shared on Twitter and other more mainstream social media platforms, including skepticism of the official COVID-19 narrative, criticism of the vaccine agenda, and anti-mask content. The ADL's pet issue, as readers are well aware, is anti-Semitism, and Gab has been and continues to be demonized as a safe haven for anti-Semitism, white supremacy, and other forms of bigotry, according to the ADL. Look, the ADL are a bunch of bigots, Nazis, commies, tyrannical scumbags. I'm sorry, I had to throw that in there, folks. Jonathan Greenblatt, the CEO of the ADL, would go on to announce Torba's dedication not to only enabling hate on Gab, but also to amplify it on other platforms, following the release of the group's report, which was no doubt to set Twitter, Facebook, and other high-profile social media platforms and internet giants in an attempt to demonize Gab's users and Torba specifically. Torba and his allies have continued to dismiss such claims and vow to protect the First Amendment, free speech, and freedom of thought. Gab is a First Amendment company, which means we tolerate offensive but legal speech. Torba explained in a post on July 1st, "We believe that a moderation policy which adheres to the First Amendment, thereby permitting offensive content to rise to the surface, is a valuable and necessary utility to society. It allows Americans and others around the world to enjoy the full measure of their human right to speak freely online. Supporting the mission of freedom online means having the stomach to accept that people will said edgy and offensive things have been censored and deplatformed by a variety of internet service providers and other online providers. Since founding Gab, Torba has built a platform that he himself controls free from outside interference and manipulation. Recently, Torba has been advocating the notion of a parallel Christian-based economy established through the Gab network, which will essentially replace mainstream versions of the social media, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, etc., streaming and video sharing platforms, YouTube, online advertising agencies, Facebook ads, and Google AdSense, and online payment processors, PayPal and Stripe. This right here is why they hate Gab, and we will do anything to stop us. Torba noted, referring to the Christian-based economy he is working to establish, Gab is an idea whose time has arrived. He continued, Gab is a community of average, everyday, normal, and wholesome God-fearing people. Gab gives you a voice in a way that no politician ever has or ever will. The power to be do not control Gab, and they don't control me. And I have to give them props. I'm a subscriber to Gab, and I'm confoundedly proud of it. And I can tell you one thing about the ADL. They lie about militias, gun control, and Judaism. And I want to say one thing about that cowardly organization, globalist, Nazi, commie, technocratic, called the ADL. They never had the balls to challenge Jews for the preservation of firearms ownership, including the late, great Aaron Zellman. And I wouldn't be surprised they couldn't even do it to Rabbi Emory. If Greenblatt is really what he stands for, I want him to challenge him on those topics. If not, he's just another globalist wuss. A gyno, Jew in name only. Plain and simple. And that's not being anti-Semitic, folks. But Gab, free speech is essential. That's the platform. If you don't like it, don't go on it. Plain and simple. These idiots, these imbeciles, ingrates, the Klan, Zionist edition of the Ku Klux Klan, need to shut up. You know what? They just wearing no clothes either. The truth of the matter is, folks, we are whipping their asses in the information war, and they hate it with a passion. So keep it up. One more here. Free speech on trial in Charlottesville, Virginia. This is by John Friend. And this is, it says here, as AFP goes to press normal monumental lawsuit involving the primary organizers of the Unite the Right rally and a group of far-left counter-protests represented by activists Roberta Kaplan and supported by Integrity First for America, a leftist nonprofit organization, is wrapping up its first week of jury selection and instruction, as well as opening statements by both sides. The start of the trial, officially known as Sines versus Kessler, come roughly 4 years following the Unite the Right rally, organized primarily by Jason Kessler, a Charlottesville-based activist and political commentator. The rally was supported by a wide variety of leading dissidents, activist groups, and white nationalist organizations comprising the broader alt-right political movement that rose to prominence during the 2015-2016 presidential campaign session. The rally organized to protest the let me see here. Sorry about that, folks. The rally organized the protest the removal of Confederate statues and memorials in Charlottesville and across the country was legally sanctioned by local authorities, where Kessler obtained a permit that was upheld by a federal judge before the rally. That did not stop the radical left. Antifa thugs and other far-left revolutionaries from counter-protesting and engaging in violence, disruption, and sabotage that day, all while local and state law enforcement officials stood by, failing to protect the civil and First Amendment rights of Kessler and others who peacefully gathered at the rally. And I was watching that. I saw a documentary on that, and the verified thing. I wasn't really crazy about the alt-right documentary because you got a bunch of quacks up there. But the two folks from Richard Spencer and the one gentleman from that represent Antifa, I think he's still alive. I hope so. But they both got attacked and battered by the police, and even both sides. Doesn't matter if you're for, doesn't matter from opposition, said the same thing. The police stood down. I did a show on that many years ago, like 4 years ago, And even the left-wing newspapers saying the same thing. They're getting attacked by both sides. I said it was a socially engineered event. They had hired guns to infiltrate both sides. Okay, that's how I look at it. And things are coming out. I even have people with socialist views. One was an investigative journalist. He went, "No, man, you're right, and I thank you." So, and I praise him for looking into it because people they remember the mainstream media loves using buzzwords, Nazis, white supremacists. They want to get that knee-jerk reaction and spaz out like a bunch of rabid dogs in heat. Well, we'll continue on here. The lawsuit brought by a group of counter protesters, more accurately described as violent disruptors and agitators, as a legally sanctioned rally, fancifully and without a single fact, alleges that defendants engaged in a violent conspiracy to assault and even murder racial minorities during the rally. The lawsuit lists were roughly 20 white nationalist groups, some of which are now defunct and no longer operating. As individuals as defendants, including Kessler, Andrew Anglin of the Daily Stormer website, Richard Spencer, Matt Parrott, Matt Heimbeck, Christopher Cantwell, the League of the South, the National Socialist Movement, the Traditional Workers' Party, Identity Vorpal, renamed the American Identity Movement in 2019, and at least 2 chapters of the Ku Klux Klan. Kaplan, the plaintiff's lead attorney, and a well-connected political activist, and Amy Spatolnik, the leader of the Integrity First for America and the daughter of the Holocaust survivors, have used the lawsuits to raise enormous amounts of money as a well-generated sympathetic media coverage for their narrative. The activists leading the lawsuit have openly discussed that their legal strategy and goal, namely to expose white supremacists and anti-Semites, and to bankrupt these groups, according to the Jewish Daily Forward. According to Kessler, virtually no evidence has been presented or brought forth to demonstrate a conspiracy between any of the defendants and James Fields, the young man alleged to have struck Heather Heyer with his vehicle, causing her high-profile and dramatic death. Mr. Fields has been convicted and is currently in prison for his actions, despite strong evidence indicating his vehicle was attacked by violent and aggressive counter-protesters marauding around the city following the disruption and eventual breakup of the rally. Many people said Mr. James Fields was a scapegoat. I can say it's possible. Like I said, it's a socially engineered event. Additionally, Kaplan, Spatolnik, and the group of plaintiffs have sought to bar the introduction of the Charlottesville Independent Review, a professional, nonpartisan, independent investigation of the Unite the Right rally, and the city of Charlottesville's response, authored by Timothy Hepfee, a prominent attorney and the former U.S. federal attorney for Virginia. The review, commonly known as the Hepfee Report, was sanctioned by the city of Charlottesville and came to some startling conclusions, not all supportive of the narrative promulgated by plaintiffs, left-wing activists, and the fake news media. The Hepfee Report details how Antifa and other far-left extremists blockaded the Unite the Right attendees, illegally and oftentimes violently disrupting their legally sanctioned event, while law enforcement basically stood by and watched. The report highlighted critical failures on the part of both law enforcement as well as city officials, and concluded that the city of Charlottesville protected neither free expression nor public safety on August 12th, the day of the rally. The chief of police appeared to play a leading role in allowing the violent disruption and sabotage of the on the rally by far-left terrorists, and report documented. Now he wanted to let both sides fight in order to justify declaring the unlawful assembly and shutting down the event, which is precisely, precisely, where are you? I screwed up here. Sorry about that. Where I'm looking, appeared, document he wanted to fight, precisely what transpired. Christopher Cantwell, a former popular radio host, organizer, and activist who has faced several legal challenges following the Unite the Right rally, is a per se defendant in the lawsuit and is seeking to introduce body cam footage as evidence in the case to demonstrate he and other defendants had peaceful intentions for the rally. He organized and attended a pre-rally meeting with his supporters and other attendees of the rally, which he recorded. It specifically alleged that we conspired to commit racially motivated violence, as at on August 11th planning meeting. Cantwell explained to the U.S. District Court Judge Norman K. Moon, who is presiding over the case, Plaintiffs will likely move to bar or otherwise prohibit Cantwell's body cam footage from being entered into evidence, which in my opinion is not a good thing to do. The trial is about rather so-called hate speech is free speech. It is, and whether protesters have the right to self-defense when threatened by anarchist extremists. Kessler explained to his reporter in a recent exchange before offering some optimism. Following the conclusion of the jury selection, 3 of my ideal jurors made it onto the jury, Kessler noted. And all of the others are just fine. Remember, we only need one to hang it, and facts are on our side. We could very well convince them after they look at the evidence. I think this is going to be a very interesting case. I should try to keep tabs on this. And just to let you folks know, too, remember that permit is a contract, and you can go to the city of Charlottesville, Virginia's website, look for that permit, and there's a clause in there stating that adequate security shall be provided for the event that was breached. And I heard Kessler's interview. He believes the particular ethno-white Europeans are being deprived, censored, and all that, which is true. Is just an example, like every other ethnic group in this nation and beyond. It's just a fact. And what happened with the Confederate soldiers taking it down was unacceptable, because if you study history, folks, they had reconciled gatherings with the Union and Confederate soldiers, generals, and all that, getting together and talk about why they fought and why they had homage to one another. Many of them stood on principles. A lot of them fought together before, served and fought together before this horrific event of the war between the states. And Kessler been scapegoated on this. On Heather here, said bloods on all these nut jobs. I would say nut jobs, loudmouths, baseless retortions, saying bloods on your hands of Heather Hare's death. Wrong. Charlottesville, bloods on their hands to all you jokers out there, paper activists that don't have a damn clue about liberty. Yes, and I did a show on that. So all you Sputniks who are listening to this, uninformed paper activists, so-called experts, hear that show and prove me wrong if you dare. And I say that with love and good faith. I like to see Kessler get off. He did nothing wrong. That's all I got to say. I thank everyone for listening. Plus, feel free to download and share us throughout your social media networks. If you have any questions, comments, and insights, check out. Whatever you do, please send your correspondence to Quorum. Furthermore, I'll leave the website for American Free Press and the titles of these articles on my Spreaker page. I said it's got to be subscription only. If you subscribe, you can read it for yourselves, folks, okay? If you want to email me, you can go to LokiLuck03@pro10mail.com. If you want to donate, go to paypal.me or cash.app/LokiLuck3. I'm going to try to hit other sites, including cryptocurrencies, as soon as possible. And I think that would be it, right? Yeah. All you got to do, folks, please observe responsibly and have discussions out of fidelity. That would be better than screaming and yelling and mudslinging one another, because that's what those sons of bitches want. The technocrats, the order, the globalist hacks. So once again, thank you for your time. Plus, always remember that the maniac resistance is healthy for the soul and can liberate humanity. Until next time, take care of yourselves. Keep on spreading the love, and may your guardian spirits be with you.